Hi, my name is John Sarantino, and I haven't played any video games in over 2 years. And that might not sound difficult to some people, but for those of you that know how difficult it is, this is for you. But this wasn't an easy thing for me to do, and in this video I want to show you how I did that, so that if you're also in a similar position that I was in, then the lessons that I've learned can help you as well. As someone who's been playing video games for basically as long as I can remember, I know firsthand just how addictive they can be. I have actually been using a software called Rescue Time for over 6 years now, and it actively tracks my activity on my computer. So later on in the video, we can actually go through exactly how much time I was spending playing video games. I actually can't remember a time when I was younger that I wasn't addicted to playing video games. I remember getting my first Game Boy Advance, and that didn't even have a backlight, so you couldn't play it in the dark, but I played Pokemon on that as much as I could while the sun was out. And as I grew up, my addiction evolved with consoles, from becoming an expert at Guitar Hero, mastering that dumb plastic guitar, to then, during middle school, I started playing Halo, and then sometime around then I also started to play Call of Duty. And I remember playing Call of Duty for most days for all of middle school and all the way up through a lot of my years in high school. And then towards the end of high school, I started playing Rocket League, and that was very addictive because of how competitive it was. And then in college, I started to play Overwatch, which was equally as competitive, and I found that for me, competitive games, I would always try to improve my rank and see how I fared in the world, so those were very addictive for me. And seeing the rank go up or down at the end of the game always made you want to play another game. Either way, if it went down, then you can't end on a loss, and if it goes up, then that means you're on a winning streak. So it's time to get one more game in to continue this good streak. And you can see how this is just an infinite loop where you basically could end up playing hours on end until something finally gives somehow. So right here, this is my Rescue Time app that I was talking about earlier, and you can see that in 2018, so I was at college during this time, so I probably had 20 hours of classes per week, I was able to spend an additional 20 to 30 hours per week playing video games. This one's 35 hours. You can see the weekly breakdowns where this week I spent 24 hours playing Rocket League and another 6 playing Fortnite, and then 15 on Rocket League, 18 on Rocket League. So at this time in my life, this is one of those Rocket League moments I was talking about. Eventually, I just fizzled out with Rocket League and replaced it with something else like Overwatch. That's how I know I'm not addicted to particular games. It's really just the feeling of video games overall that you get addicted to, because you can replace one with another, and they kind of swap in and out over time. But the crazy thing is, this is almost 1,000 hours, which I believe is basically a part-time job, 20 hours per week. Yeah, there's 52 weeks in a year, times 20 is about 1,000. So I was working a full part-time job playing video games. And that's so insane to me that I had this much free time available that I wasn't using on things, and I would wonder why I wasn't able to get stuff done. I found out why I wasn't able to get stuff done. I spent 1,000 hours doing nothing. So that's just very revealing. Using this app is also helpful. I would recommend getting it. I'll put a link to it down in the description. Because of this video game addiction, I really couldn't spend the time that I wanted to on my own projects, because for me, that's always been really important. I've really had this strong internal desire to build my own things. That's why I have websites, apps, YouTube videos, YouTube channels, and now a video editing company, just because all these things are things that I've wanted for such a long time, but until these last 2 years, I really have not had the time to give them the attention that they deserve. And because of that, I always had this feeling of disappointment in how I was spending my time, because I had these things that I wanted to do, but I just couldn't do it. And it really showed in more ways than just disappointment. I just really wouldn't want to do anything else. And it was bad for both my mental and physical health. And the issue is that I always remember wanting to quit. And that's how you know that it's an addiction. Because if it's something that you truly want to stop doing, and it's having a negative impact on your life, and you can't stop doing it, then that is the definition of an addiction. But eventually, I was able to overcome this addiction. So I really want this video to share the steps that I took that helped me to quit in the order that I took them. So the very first thing that helped me get the initial energy to actually quit was starting to write a daily journal. I didn't start journaling with the intent of quitting video games. I was simply listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast where he was talking to Penn Jillette from Penn & Teller, and Penn Jillette said that he kept a journal for the last 15 years at the time, and he would write in it every single day. And every day, he would also have a few journals to look back on, one from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and he'd able to see all of his progress throughout the years. And I just thought that that was a really cool thing, so I decided to start doing that myself. So I kept writing a daily journal for a few months in Google Docs, but I didn't really think I was getting benefits from writing these journal entries. And that is until one day I decided to sit down and read through them. And I read through a bunch of past entries, and as I went through, day by day, I started to flip through the pages and notice a very obvious pattern. Well, they weren't pages, those were Google Docs, but but you get the idea. And that pattern was that there were so many days that I had said I wanted to get something done, but I didn't because I was playing too many video games, or I would say that I played too many video games and I just didn't feel good because of it. And when I was writing these journal entries, I didn't even plan to specifically write about my gaming habits. They just came out naturally due to the impact that they were having on my day-to-day life, which led me to write it down. So the fact that it had a big enough impact on that many days to write it down without even consciously thinking about it was very revealing for me. And it may seem obvious now looking back. It's like, oh, that was a really obvious pattern. But for some reason, you really don't notice it day to day. You feel like it's just a problem for today, and tomorrow will be better, and you don't even remember all the other days that you had the same thoughts. And I just think that that time horizon is hard for people to realize. So looking back through the journal entries and just seeing how recurring this problem was is what pushed me over the edge to say, okay, this actually needs to stop. And I've definitely said something similar in the past, but those previous attempts just didn't have the energy behind them to actually succeed and get me to stop. But for some reason, seeing this pattern every day and reading how it made me feel just gave me the energy that I needed to finally quit. And after I went through all these journal entries the first time, I actually went through a second time and I copied all of the places where I was talking about either video games or something interesting, and I put it into a highlight reel, just one file with all of these snippets in it. And for the first few months, I read that every single day, and that was my goal, was to read that every day just to give me that energy every single day. And it worked, it really did. So if you're struggling with any habit that you're trying to break or one that you're trying to start, write down in your journal every day just your thoughts, and then go through those entries and pull out things that either motivate you or demotivate you from doing that habit. Another thing that I did that I really attribute some of my success to, which might sound silly, is I went on Amazon and I bought a box of 1,000 paper clips for like $8. And when I decided to start the streak of stopping, I told myself that I would earn a paper clip for each successful day. So after the first day, I hung that paperclip on the wall because I earned it. And the simple fact of hanging that paperclip on the wall made the whole process feel more serious to me and more meaningful. And as the days went on, each paperclip I earned, the chain grew longer at a surprising rate. When I initially bought the paperclips, I really didn't put too much effort into it. I don't know why I thought of it in the first place. I just thought it'd be really cool to visualize my progress. But actually being able to see my progress in a physical, tangible way made a tremendous difference in how well I was able to stick to my goal. I think it's just because humans are quite bad at conceptualizing numbers. Our brains really don't grasp the magnitude of the difference between like the number 10 and the number 99, because they're both just 2 digits on a piece of paper, and that's what our brain sees. But a chain of 99 paper clips is visibly much longer than a chain of 10. So I made the promise to myself also that if I ever broke the streak, I would take the paperclip chain apart and start over from scratch. And just thinking that each paperclip was an entire day of effort that I put into trying to break the habit, it just made me much less likely to give in to my temptations. Now, in the beginning, during the first few weeks or months, it's definitely the hardest, and you really have to get really comfortable with being bored and removing yourself from environments that you're used to being in, because a lot of habits are environment-based. It was pretty tough for me because I would work on my computer and then I would play games on my computer because I worked remote. So what I had to do was just straight up uninstall all video games that I would play. I also had to stop going on Discord with my friends for a while, and that was definitely one of the hardest parts. I really had to struggle with the boredom myself and not try to fill the void with something else, because I knew that if I wasn't careful, I would definitely try to fill it with other things like YouTube and Netflix, but that would just give me an equal feeling of wasting my time. And one thing to note is that YouTube was also a problem for me, but I found that if I got the Chrome extension called Unhook, you could turn that on and it basically just removes all AI suggestions, like from the homepage or in the suggested feed. You can't see those, and basically it just turns YouTube into a search bar, which really improved my relationship with it, because then I could choose what I want to watch and look it up in the search bar, as opposed to making me watch things that I wasn't even planning on watching in the first place. Like, I would probably have good intentions for going on YouTube and then I'd get sucked down a rabbit hole. And I'm sure all of you guys know that feeling. And if that's you, I would highly recommend just trying out the Unhooked Chrome extension. It's really simple. It's just a bunch of switches where you can choose what you want to turn on and off, and it just works flawlessly for me. And once you have this extra time, you really need to replace the gaming with better activities like programming. I would write scripts for YouTube videos or live stream. Basically anything that you can do that gives you a slight dopamine hit that is also positive, and that's what I would try to do. For me personally, I felt like programming was a really good replacement because it has nicely paced out rewards, kind of like a video game does. And by that I mean you can make a ton of micro achievements, and like creating your first button or your first function. Each of these small achievements feels like a quest in a video game, but you're also learning a real life skill that can help you for years to come. One thing that you can do to help is actually write down a list of all the activities that you can do instead of playing games. It could be reading, exercising, learning an instrument, any hobby like drawing or writing, or just focusing on activities that move you towards your goals or just give you a sense of achievement in any way. Those are all great things to do. And also you can try to gamify your life a little bit and make it a little bit more interesting. And one simple way to do that is to use one of those spinning wheels. There's a bunch of websites for it. I think you can go to like pickerwheel.com and you'll find one on there, and you put a bunch of activities on it, like that whole list that you have, and you spin the wheel, and this can add a little bit of RNG into your real life. Another way that you can take control of this boredom feeling is to start meditating. And meditation can help you become aware of your thoughts and emotions, and also teach you how to sit with that discomfort instead of always trying to escape it. And it might feel difficult at first, but with practice it can become a very powerful tool for managing your impulses in general and increasing your focus. I briefly mentioned earlier that these last 2 years have been so much better for me, and I really can't express it enough. I've been able to do better at my job, work on my side projects more, start a video editing company, and see that grow over the last year, which has been great. And I know for a fact that I wouldn't have had a fraction of the time to spend on any of these things, to the point where none of them would have existed at all, including this video. So if you're in a similar position to me, definitely just know it's a journey, and you may not do it on the first try, but just keep trying, and then do yourself a favor and buy some paper clips. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.